The juice is loose.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Somewhere Between a film and TV podcast. We're your hosts. I am Daniel Parra.
And I'm Erwin Trejo.
And number one, thank you so much for listening. Number two, what are they going to do?
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Please do. We are going to be reviewing what, Erwin?
BJ.
BJ. A name so nice you want to say it twice. Beetlejuice.
Hey,
Beetlejuice.
did you come up with that? Just that phrase alone?
No, that's a pretty popular
Yeah,
saying.
but it just worked so well.
It does work really well.
Yeah.
Well, he's supposed to say it 3 times.
Beetlejuice.
We are 2 people.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you something.
Yes.
With this movie, Erwin,
Yes.
did you love it? Did you hate it? Or are you somewhere between?
I would say I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I really, really liked it, on the verge of loving it. I just saw it a few hours ago.
Okay.
So I'm still processing some of the things here. However, that does tie into something I want to talk about before we fully get into the movie. Everything we have to review will always have full spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind as you listen. If you haven't seen it yet, know that we really liked it. And
Yes.
we highly recommend it. Come back to this, though, later if you want to hear the rest of our thoughts. But some background information is, had you seen the original or did you watch it more recently?
Wait, what?
Had you...
I was like, you confused me.
Have you seen the original or like beforehand, or did you watch it for the first time recently?
No, I've seen the original one before, but then I had to watch it again
Okay.
to remember what happened.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long.
Mm.
And I mean, I guess like after watching it again, I was like, wow, I forgot how much I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how little of Beetlejuice was in it.
Yeah.
Because he was just so, I guess, iconic.
Because he's on the poster. It's the
Yes.
name of the movie.
Exactly.
Right.
And I guess I don't know if we're going to talk about the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the first one, what really stood out to me was the couple in the first one.
Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why their chemistry together worked so well for me that
Yeah.
I was just, anytime they were on screen, I was entertained the entire time. And just like, and I cared about them a lot. And whenever Beetlejuice would show up as well.
Yeah. So that was a 1988 film by Tim Burton.
Yes.
This is the thing that put Winona Ryder on the map. It also put Tim Burton a little bit.
She was on that show, Heathers.
That Heathers came out after, I believe, because that's a 90s
Oh.
movie, and this
So
came out in
You
88.
don't need to talk to me that way.
All right. But this was the year before Batman. Michael Keaton is interesting. He's basically the Joker in this, but then I guess he reversed roles. And I think that movie is great. I hadn't seen it since I was a child. However, there's a very specific reason I have no nostalgia for the first one, and it's because I was terrified of the first one when I saw it. So I like genuinely, it's not one of those things I could ever get into. And it wasn't for the sake of the movie itself. It's that I thought it was really scary.
Yeah.
And honestly, watching it again, there are some things in there that I thought it was a kid's movie for a lot of my life. I don't think that it is.
Dude,
I think
some of the jokes that were said by Beetlejuice, it just flew over my head.
No, they say fuck in that movie.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's just because it was PG and the PG-13 rating hadn't existed until Temple of Doom was maybe why. And I think that was that the next year, I believe. And the thing that really rings true in that movie still, it's carried over into this one, is that it is all over the place. It barely has a plot. And I don't know if that struck you, like, whenever you were watching it.
I think it just jumps right into it.
Yeah.
Like, it never stops. Even from the first one into the second one, like the moment you're in this movie, it just kept going. Except for some parts in the second one, I guess we'll talk about later.
Right.
But in the first one, you're just straight into it, and straight into like this new world. And I guess in a little ways, like you're just trying to figure out like how this world is like how it's built.
Yeah.
And everything, and you just follow along the journey through the couple that recently
There's so many cool ideas about the idea of the afterlife here. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny. We reviewed Ghostbusters earlier on this year, a movie that I didn't really care for, and I don't think you did.
Wait, is it the Frozen one?
Yeah, Frozen Empire. And watching Beetlejuice again,
Yeah.
I thought this feels a lot like the original Ghostbusters, actually. And then I learned that that movie was kind of under criticism for feeling a little bit too much like the original Ghostbusters
Wow,
when it had come
any
out.
chance for you to hate on Ghostbusters?
No, not really.
Dude.
I mean, actually, you know what? Yeah, I will take the chance. I don't understand why that franchise is so popular, and I would take 4 more of these than I ever would another Ghostbusters.
Wow,
Because-
I didn't know I unlocked something.
Because I love this character makes sense to bring back because
Yeah.
there's I will tell you what my dad said about this new one. He said there's no rhyme or reason for anything here.
No.
And that's, you know what? That's part of the charm of it. And I
The
think
juice is loose.
do you want to talk about it?
No, I just love it.
Okay. But that original one, would you say that you love that movie?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was like really great. I can see why it's still iconic for such a long period of time.
Yeah. I do too, and I did not know until recently that Tim Burton had a huge impact on the late 80s and 90s with whether it be Edward Scissorhands or I know that it wasn't him, Henry Selick on Nightmare Before Christmas,
Yes.
but the whole aesthetic, the vibe that he brings
Yes.
was iconic. People have been trying to replicate that for such a long time now.
And like how Hot Topic is like half of what Tim Burton is.
Hot Topic is basically like Alice in Wonderland,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
sort of where I think he's at fault. But that, and then you know what? I think that I kind of like that Miss Peregrine movie that
Oh,
nobody
yeah.
seems to remember.
Yeah, I forgot
we
about
saw
that.
that movie together
I
when
did
it
like
came
it.
out. Yeah, but his whole vibe of the tactile look of no CG. This brings back the modern like prosthetic effect.
Yeah. Like half of it was, like at least from the second
Yeah,
one.
with like claymation too.
Yes.
And before we fully get into all of that stuff, I want to ask you if you have any more thoughts on like Tim Burton in general. Are you a fan of his?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I grew up with his movies
Yeah.
too, and I love his movies. I think for me, and I'm pretty sure others as well, that he has like a unique style, like most directors
It's
have.
incredibly unique. Yeah.
And so you can tell, like, is this movie directed or written by Tim Burton?
yeah.
And just because of the way he showcases his characters in the world that he films around.
Yeah.
So
I think
I'm always
that
eager to see his stuff.
he's getting his footing back because with Wednesday, with the Netflix deal with that, I think that I like that show a lot. I think it is hampered down by the whole Netflix feel of it, but they, even Jenna Ortega and Tim Burton themselves have admitted that they want it to be a little bit less focused on the things that Netflix wanted in season 2, and they're giving them more free reign to do what they want.
Didn't it say because like of the love interest or something?
Yes, because there was some behind the scenes stuff with that
Oh,
was a
okay.
little bit like, I can't quite remember what happens with that,
Yeah.
but I remember it was a big deal, so they were able to eliminate that
Oh, okay.
aspect of it because it does take up a lot of screen time in that first season.
Oh,
It is
okay.
one of the weaker elements of it, but he's bringing back his style because I thought that, I don't know if you like either of those Alice in Wonderland movies.
Not really.
No.
I've seen the first one.
Yeah.
I don't remember the second one.
But they're visually ugly and gross and
Yeah.
drab, and I think that there's what's missing is that real feeling that he brings
Yes.
to things. Like, I genuinely think that even if it was still the same movie, but if they had the prosthetic effects there and the animatronics and the whatever he does,
I think it's just because it felt so droopy
yeah,
and gloomy
that's
that
and-
it just didn't resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think because you felt that throughout the entire movie.
you do, because all the characters feel like it's that sort of prequel style of acting where
Yeah.
they're very clearly acting against nothing, so none of them know how to emote or react to each other, especially when Tim Burton's whole vibe is everyone is sarcastic and dry and they're really all over the top versions of a
I
character.
really found. Sorry, I don't know why I just remembered like from the first Beetlejuice movie.
Yeah.
Winona, was it Winona
Winona
Ryder?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, you said it.
Oh, okay, Winona Ryder. Her character in the first one, where
Yeah.
she's like very like gothic and like emo.
Yeah.
It's so funny because at one point she's like, "I just want to kill myself," and I'm like, "Whoa,
No,
what the heck?"
scene where she's like, I am completely and utterly alone.
Yeah.
That's like iconic. And
yeah,
it's a bunch of stuff that I think it's interesting that original has such a grip
Yes.
onto people. I even told you when I went into the bathroom, someone did a Beetlejuice impression at me.
You're like, Beetlejuice? What are you
No, and he was like, excuse me. And I was like, that's awesome. And
that's awesome. I gotta
no, so many people were wearing hoodies that were
That's
like
true.
his suit that he
somebody-
barely wears in the first one. But
Yeah, because somebody else in my theater was like wearing like a costume or something
Yeah.
to it. That's insane.
no, I saw someone else. It was a tweet that was talking about how they were like, this guy is like heckling the trailers dressed as Beetlejuice, and then everybody was like, hey, I think that's just some like guy that got out of like a mental hospital.
You gotta run.
pretending to be.
You gotta go.
You're like, hey, get out. But Erwin, with Beetlejuice, what'd you think of it?
Overall, I would say I loved it.
Yeah.
There were some issues that I had with it,
Okay.
but I guess I don't know. Like, what
You
do
know
you
what?
think?
How
Because-
about let's do this?
Okay.
I think that this movie's so all over the place, and
Yeah.
that's actually part of its charm, that we should do our negatives first, so we can
Okay.
explain our positives later.
Okay, that was fine.
So let me go ahead and ask you what your negatives are right now.
Okay.
And
So my negatives were, I thought the pacing was
it
kind
was
of
weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Especially in the very beginning,
Yeah.
where they were getting introduced to Winona Ryder and like Jenna Ortega and like the family
Right.
and everything. That's the part where it kind of dragged, just because I'm like, all right, clearly nobody wants to be here. It seems like where they want to be in life,
Because they're all dealing with it's that legacy sequel thing where people are brought back, and then I was literally complaining about this, but unless it's something I like, then it's okay.
But it just didn't work for me. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Because I felt the pacing. I'm like, this movie is supposed to be like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's an hour 45, I think.
Yeah. And the first one was like an hour 40 or something.
Hour 33. I
Yeah.
remember because I was like, it's short.
It's
And-
really short.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this movie. I was like, hopefully this movie's not like 2.5 hours long.
No, if it was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire,
Alright,
then it would have been.
I mean,
but
I'm not gonna disagree, but that was like one thing of the pacing when it just came to the very beginning
yeah.
of things, and then I would probably say a little bit of like with the. I guess it kind of seemed like romantic interest for Jenna Ortega.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, and then luckily it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, it's.
I kind of like their chemistry though, actually, but
Yeah.
then I was.
I don't know. It just seemed kind of so obvious.
Yeah.
Too.
No, I told you that. I was like, sometimes movies do twists where I feel like a dumbass because I'm
Yeah.
like, why did I not?
Well,
think-
not the twist. I'm just more
Yeah.
like her running into him.
Oh yeah.
Like her just riding her bicycle, crashing into his fence.
Well, it's like one
into
of
the
those.
tree house.
Oh, do you mean whenever movies do this thing where they're supposed to be like, I'm not the bad guy, but then
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
really obvious that this
Hey,
person would
I'm
be.
selling your soul for so I get to live. It's like, all right.
They're like, hey, that's kind of rude. It's like,
It's like, what? I just met you.
all right, so what? You're pacing, and then
I guess.
what else?
I think that's mostly it. Oh, and then Justin.
Oh, you didn't like? So
I
you
just
were
don't- I
complaining
don't-
about it because
oh.
you didn't like his character.
I just
in
don't
this, or-
think. I think I just don't like him as the actor.
Oh, as an actor?
Yeah, I don't know why. He's just. Now I have nothing against him. I don't know him, but he kind of annoys me sometimes. I don't know
Erwin's
what it
saying,
is.
count your days, Justin Thoreau.
Yeah, I don't like your last name either. I can't pronounce it.
Thoroughly get rid of you. So
What are your negatives?
my negatives
Yeah.
with this movie are also the pacing.
Yeah.
But I can't excuse a movie's pacing for being practically the same as the first one.
I didn't feel it in the
But
first
you
one.
really? Because
No.
I love that first movie,
Yeah.
but I think it takes a while for things to get set in stone what's going on. Because in that original with Alec Baldwin and
Yes.
Gina Davis, they die
Yes.
and they take a while to figure out what's going on.
Well, it's like also us as the
Yeah.
audience to figure out like what's going on.
Yeah.
So like that's why I'm like, I don't know about that.
And so it's all right
Yeah.
for that to play out like that because it makes you kind of wish that I don't know what the marketing was like for this movie in 88. But I kind of think that that movie probably operated better on if you didn't know at all where that was going.
Yeah.
So let's say the entire idea of Beetlejuice, because this movie does need to be named something. It can't be named like Two Ghosts in a House or something like that.
Yeah.
But avoiding where it heads.
Yeah.
But here, obviously, we're bringing back a character that's iconic.
Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice.
Michael Keaton, who is incredible.
Yeah, he
as
does a
this role.
great job. It's like he
Yeah.
just came back and he was just himself again.
Yeah, no,
It was amazing.
But we'll say that for the positives.
Okay.
But with the negatives here outside of that, this movie, it's kind of gonna guide a navigating line here of both positive and negative. Is it's so all over the place that plot points don't really get paid off. Some are essentially gotten rid of just because,
or thrown away.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here's one that I love. Is really when this movie gets the ball rolling is whenever, like the first one, the final half, whenever Ryder's like, great, I kind of need him, and then, like
basically
brings him back, and then they find out the thing about the boy that she develops a friendship or a relationship with, and then it navigates towards them like having to go through the afterlife stuff, and that's basically just there to get them in that part of the world, because Beetlejuice kind of shows up and then he's like, I'm gonna kill you now, sending you to hell, and then and then that subplot's just over.
And then, which I'm kind of glad, because at the end, like, I wanted to see more of the interaction between Beetlejuice and like the original family again, and we got that at the very end,
because that stuff with Jenna Ortega felt more like, it felt like Wednesday. It felt like something from Wednesday, but maybe it's just because I do really like that show. It has its problems, but I really like Tim Burton and her in that, and that felt more like something that they carried over from there. But there's so much stuff in this movie that feels like subplots that are mashed together, but not in the sense of being messy for no reason. Like, there are certain movies we say, hey, you needed to either figure out how to tie this together or remove a subplot. But here, it's almost like they want you to follow everything going on. Because then at a point, there's this entire thing where Monica Bellucci is...
Dude, I don't know where that went. I guess that's my negative too. Because the fact that she showed up and I was like, okay, it seems interesting. Like, the fact that in the first one they casually mentioned it's like, oh yeah, my other wife. Like,
I thought it was funny. They wrote the entire subplot where he like has a finger. He's like, she meant no.
And I'm like, no, and it became a plot. And just in this new one, it didn't pay off for nothing.
No, it was one of those things where I was like, the introductory scene with her is awesome. It looks really cool. The song, Danny DeVito's cameo, where I recognize his voice too, and then his stature. I was like,
that's definitely Danny DeVito.
And then he says, "Hey, toots," and then I'm like, "Yeah, that's Danny DeVito." Like, if I ever had any doubt about it, but so
if it ain't freshly sliced, it ain't Jersey Mike's. Sorry, that's Danny DeVito as like in his ad for Jersey Mike's.
I've never had Jersey Mike's. That place smells like onions. But
like, literally any sandwich shop that has onions.
I was like, not any sandwich. Not every sandwich has onions. I wouldn't put like.
I would put onions in my sandwich.
Did you see the Denny's menu for this?
Yeah.
Fuck.
I love when like other food places do themed stuff for movies. It's amazing.
I do too, but only if they put effort into it. Because if they don't, like Alamo for this one, I was kind of like,
oh yeah, it was a kind of a letdown.
It was like lame, and
I saw the popcorn bucket for one of them. It was cool. Yeah, it looks nice.
But with this, the reason why we set up our negatives here is because we have to figure out like how this movie plays out. Yeah, and it's sort of everywhere. So bouncing back and forth, it's one of those movies where like if you have a negative and a positive, sometimes they're in the same scene. Yeah. Like, I thought Justin Theroux was fine. I thought his joke was a little bit overplayed for me.
Yeah. It was. And I felt like he got a lot of screen time. Yeah. More than I wanted than the other characters.
No, because I think, so we're going to get into positives in a second, because I think that he interferes with the funny things that are in this movie. But the thing is, he sets up some really funny jokes because
I did like him at the end.
Oh, the thing he says where he's like,
I guess the truth serum. Yeah.
It made me realize that in this one, I don't really know what their relationship is with Beetlejuice, but they definitely don't hate him.
And he's like, that's just how he is.
They're like, yeah, you know what, you have that friend that like does weird shit.
Why are you friends with him?
But Beetlejuice, I wouldn't be. He's dead. I don't know. So let's get into our positives here, because we didn't think that there was a whole lot wrong with this movie. It's just that the pacing is really wonky. I also thought
Wonka.
Oh
yeah, Tim Burton.
Oh, he did do that movie.
Wow, I forgot about that.
Did I like that movie?
Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I liked it as a kid.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I think I like it just because that's the one I grew up with.
Yeah,
than the older one.
The new one's better.
Yeah. Like, I love musicals, so yeah, of course it's better.
Wonka Did we didn't review it, huh?
We should have, dude.
The movie's amazing.
The fact that it was on my on repeat playlist.
Yeah, no, me too, dude. It like kind of tanked my you know how,
it ruined.
No, like
it ruined my top 5 artists.
No, the top 5 artists, Timothée Chalamet.
I'm like, ugh.
Just for a moment. But no, that movie's it is what it is. I guess not Wonka, but Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah. I couldn't give you a proper assessment on it. I know people hate it, but
that's true. Because people, I mean, I get it. Because the Gene Wilder one is good too.
Oh, it's a great movie. Yeah.
So I get why people wouldn't like it. It's just a different style.
But it's once you realize that some people are just fans of something.
Oh yes.
But it's like, who out there though is gonna be like the Beetlejuice lore? Which actually there is lore in here.
Dude, did you show up like 30 minutes like with your showtime for Alamo?
Like 15.
Okay.
Minutes.
So did you see like any of like the backstory of Beetlejuice, or like how much advertising they did right after this movie came out?
I know about the advertising just because
it's insane.
Yeah.
And like how much like impact Beetlejuice himself had in terms of like at haunted houses and like haunted
I saw the
parks
Universal part. Yeah.
It's insane.
He has like a really huge chokehold on the world.
I think just in Halloween,
for
sure. So
people always want to dress up as him, and I guess it's an easy costume, but with the striped suit, and then I'm sure that like they sell it at what is it, Halloween, the Spirit Halloween, and then Party City, and all of those places. But really getting into our positives here, Erwin, I want to ask you what do you have like a absolute favorite thing in this? Beetlejuice.
Yeah, the fact that he was actually in it more.
Yeah.
Like,
I know people want to say, oh, use him sparingly, but you know what? I think he's such a gravitational force in terms of how he plays out in this movie.
Yes.
That I don't mind. I don't mind him getting more screen time.
Yeah.
In this one, he's so funny. A lot of the jokes work for me here. Most of the ones that don't come from Justin Theroux.
Oh yeah. And I love the scenes with Beetlejuice and the baby.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. That made me laugh so much.
The therapy scene. Yeah. The one at the end, I thought that's how the movie was gonna end. I was like, this movie's so weird. I don't typically catch myself thinking that something's a little bit off kilter or weird for an audience, but it made me think this movie is mainstream, and some of the jokes that they like decide to show, I'm like, that's fascinating. That they want to show this in a movie that.
Wait, which joke are you thinking about?
Stuff like that, where there's just some visual stuff that's basically Looney Tunes.
Oh yeah, I love Looney Tunes.
And I don't know if it's just because this specific brand of humor has been gone for such a long time that really over the top, either whether it be satire or parody or anything that's really cartoony in how a joke plays out. Like Monica Bellucci, something I thought was hilarious was this. She has this soul-sucking ability, and they shrink, and there's a part where Willem Dafoe sketches out over the person's body, but it's like compressed.
Willem Dafoe's character in this movie is hilarious.
Yeah,
I love him so much.
So if we're gonna get into specific positives, the actors here, the actors, carry 100%. A lot of they can pull off a joke really well, and the surprise standout in this movie for me is I think it's Christina Ricci.
Oh yes, yeah.
She is so funny. No, I'm sorry. Catherine O'Hara. Catherine O'Hara. Christina Ricci's in Wednesday.
Oh,
but yeah. I think she is absolutely phenomenal in this movie.
I've seen some of Schitt's Creek.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's good in that, too.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, great. Like, I can't wait to see her in this.
You know what she was in earlier this year?
What?
Argyle.
Argyle. Oh my gosh, Argyle. Why'd you bring her?
She's the mom of Bryce Dallas Howard.
And she changed her accent. I don't
know. Yeah. And she was like, I'm not actually British.
I'm not your mom. You're like, what?
That movie was fascinating. I know you loved it. That's why I brought it up. So
Wolf Jackson.
So
I do my stunts.
Okay, here's the thing about Willem Dafoe in this. He doesn't need to be in this movie.
No,
there's nothing about his character.
But he was in it, and it was awesome.
He was in it,
great.
And I've heard this complaint as well. They were like, Willem Dafoe's hilarious in this, but if you take him out, there's nothing's changed.
Nothing changes.
The part at the end where he's like, looks like we missed him. And then, like, what is the point?
I can't.
Because some of the subplots in this movie are like...
Can you say it?
Which,
the line that you
keeping
would say.
it real?
No.
Oh, He keeps calling Beetlejuice Mr.
Mr.
Juice in this movie, and that's really funny to me. But no, a lot of the okay. I want to talk not just about the actors outside of Beetlejuice. Is there anyone else that was a highlight to you?
I would probably say like Winona Ryder too.
Okay.
Like, I mean, she just slips back into this role, but in a mature sense.
I like what she has to do with her talk show and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to explain this. I wish she was in it more, but then...
I don't know. Like, I felt like everybody had more screen time, or had the same amount of screen time to say.
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel like... Because I know some people worried about Jenna Ortega being, like, the main one.
And she's in it.
She's in it, but, like, all the other characters are in it, too.
Yeah.
So it didn't also just feel like her.
Yeah.
I think maybe what people would... I would assume they would feel that way if they just think, like, they didn't like her plot. Or they felt like her plot was just too much. But I felt like everybody's plot point was there, and it showcased it. Because even with Catherine O'Hara's character in this movie, like, I did not expect her to be in it as much as she did.
No, she's one of the main, and I like that they actually grew Catherine O'Hara and Winona Ryder to like be friendlier to each other because of some of the stuff in the first one. And it's interesting that a movie like this gets a legacy sequel in the first place. I don't know if you know the original idea for the plot of the second original sequel.
No.
It was called Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, and it was
okay, let's go. Keep going.
It was that the Deetz family was going to go on vacation, and it was supposed to be more of a parody of teen beach movies.
Yes.
And I can't quite remember why Beetlejuice wants to be there.
Dude, I just see Beetlejuice in a Hawaiian shirt.
No, it's one of those things where I was like, I can see this sequel playing out really well in my head, actually, when I was reading the entire original description. And they were trying to get it off the ground, but then it never panned out. And some of the plot elements that were in that one are in this one, where they end up saying that Lydia, Deetz, and Beetlejuice actually get along with each other. And in this one they do, but in the circumstance that she kind of needs him. Yeah. And the fact that he's like haunting her at the beginning of this movie, only to...
because he wants to marry her. He just got infatuated with her.
Yeah. One of the jokes I thought was really funny was when Monica Bellucci sees that he has it framed and she like stomps on the thing.
Oh my gosh, Bob.
Yeah, can we talk about so if we're talking about, I don't know who the actor is that plays Bob, or if that's even like an actual actor, but those guys are hilarious.
Dude, at the end when they were saying like Brian
Brian, Brad, and
like they were in it. That made me laugh so much.
Because the entire idea that there's also weird visual gags here. Like there's an entire segment where they're like, hey, you know what we should do? Turn this into like an Italian throwback and make it look like a 50s thing for a 40s, 30s, whatever. Yeah. For a few minutes. And you're just like, what is going on?
Yes. Oh, man.
And it just goes into a straight different language. I think that's hilarious. Yeah. And I don't know if it's this idea that things are so random that you just kind of let the movie play out, but it was one of those things where I was like, this is just throwing so much information at me that I think it just wants to entertain. I don't think it wants to do anything else other than try and make you laugh and try and keep you engaged with whatever's going on, because those guys you were talking about, I don't know what it is to me that I was like, these are some of the funniest dudes.
It's just the way they react, and the way he was. I think it was Bob who came up and just like was wearing the same suit as Beetlejuice as well.
That made me laugh so hard.
It was so funny.
Or when they blow up the wall and then they all run out. The visual,
the way they look.
The visual of them in the store just buying stuff. I was like. So that leads me into wanting to talk about something else, because Tim Burton's really well known for this.
Yes.
This has such a distinct look to it. It's beautiful. I think it's so funny in how it looks as well. I don't know if you caught any of the afterlife stuff as particularly impressive.
No, absolutely. But, even in the first one too. Just seeing like glimpses of how the other like, I guess like creatures or like monsters or like just people from the afterlife. Yeah. And everything, how they look. It still feels the same way.
Something I really love about the waiting room in this, and if we're going to talk about if this movie is doing commentary on anything, not really. But I
wouldn't care. I don't care about that.
No, but even if it is, I like the idea of the commentary on death, where it's a really I heard someone talk about this, that the idea that death is so American that it's like a waiting room. And they even have a line where that dude dies after the beginning of the movie, where like the
shark.
Not that one,
Oh.
not and I learned why they did that, and I was like, okay, it's probably a good thing that actor's not in this movie.
Yeah.
And
I want to know.
oh, he's a convicted pedophile. That's a
Okay, and I didn't want to know.
yeah, and so that's why they keep making these weird, mean-spirited jokes about him. But
Yeah.
I guess they're not weird because you're
No,
like,
that's not good. No,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
That whole claymation segment where they just like it's bitten.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I was like, I mean, this actor isn't I didn't see any of that when I looked him
Yeah.
up, but I was just wondering because I was like, because he's still alive, but I know he's not acting. Like I haven't seen him act in anything.
Yeah.
But that makes sense now.
I just kept thinking when I saw the original,
Yeah.
that's the Ferris Bueller guy.
Yeah.
But the more you know, I guess.
Yeah.
And I thought that so much of the visuals here were so cool, and then the waiting room is hilarious to me. I love this idea that everyone in there tells a story. It makes me want to pause it.
Oh yes.
Like I don't know if you did with the original, but the football players in the first one where they're like, I don't think we're alive, coach. It's jokes like that I think are so clever and funny that comedies make it. It made me realize how many things aren't visual jokes anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's that one where the dude has all the hot dogs in his mouth in this one that I loved, or the magician in the box. And I thought all that stuff was great. I don't know if you...
I think it's just more like the visual storytelling.
Yeah. That's what Tim Burton got famous for in the first place. It's his whole gothic idea of... He likes making dark jokes, and that's exactly what's funny. It's this sort of play on the fact that death isn't really anything all that, like, heavy to them.
Well, it's just like another way of like view, like it's like a perspective thing. Yeah. Right. Like how some people can deal with death and all. Yeah. And like I guess with Tim Burton, he sees it in a way where it's sad, but also it can be such like a meaningful thing too. Yeah. And like you can look at it in a brighter way.
No, and it makes me wonder if I haven't really seen any interviews with Tim Burton on his views on death, I suppose. But I know someone like Guillermo del Toro likes to talk about how the monsters sometimes are the guys, like the real people, and then the monsters are the sympathetic ones.
More ready.
No, not the Pacific Rim.
Uprising.
That's the
trailer.
Sequel. Yeah,
number 1.
Yeah,
as if I didn't see that trailer over and over.
And with this, I don't know if there are any specific visual details that you also really liked in this.
No, mostly just the, I guess the creatures. Yeah. Just seeing that in the afterlife. I love the fact that we got to see more of the afterlife. That's one in the second one, and then instead of the first one, because the first one it was mostly like waiting room. Yeah. And that was pretty much it, or like them visiting them in the real world.
Yeah. In the first one, it's kind of they just go there sometimes. Yeah. And what I love about this one is this movie's not that long, but maybe it's because of the pacing. It felt a little long.
It felt a little longer.
Yeah.
But I think it's because of what you said, the pacing.
I'm not even going to complain about that because I like things that feel like they're taking their time. And I wasn't ever bored by this movie. I was just I was apprehensive at a point where I was like, I kind of don't know when this movie will really feel like it's kicking itself into gear a little bit.
I think it's because whenever a bunch of plot points were happening at the same time, you're just like, which one's going to end?
Yeah. No, when I felt really, really engaged is when he's brought back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Once they get to that therapy session is whenever you're like, all right, it's time for, you know...
I think whenever she actually goes, what's her like character?
Lydia.
Lydia
Deetz.
Yeah, Lydia Deetz. Whenever she actually calls Beetlejuice. Back and like say like I need you.
I also love a lot of the camera work stuff that he employs here because you can tell that you can always feel when someone got popular in the 80s or 90s because Sam Raimi does the same thing with a camera where he's like, what if I just like made it zoom in and it was really shaky really fast. And they do a lot of stuff where I noticed this thing that they keep doing with the ghosts where it looks like they're floating somewhere else while the camera moves that I thought was a really cool idea. And I just love the aesthetic of that entire office where everything takes place. I didn't know that Beetlejuice worked in the same office.
Dude,
that
was
new
so funny
information I learned.
I can't.
It just made me wonder. It's one of those things where it's visual storytelling. Where I was like, what was that? What were all those dudes doing in there that they all ran out?
Yeah.
Once they saw that it exploded, why could
don't let them out?
No, is that sort of logic where I was like, why couldn't they leave before?
Yeah. That's so funny.
And I loved a lot of the details with everyone on the phone that you could hear, like, they're still in my house. They're still in my house. I thought that was really funny.
I don't know. It's just like, I love like these two movies.
Yeah.
Turning something where people are so scared of.
Yeah.
And making it into a joke. Where it's like you're the ghost now, and you're like, oh, I'm trying to get rid of these people.
No, the entire idea of a bio exorcist, where he's like, I didn't realize how iconic it was because I laughed out loud really hard whenever he's like, I've seen The Exorcist, however many times, and it gets funnier every single time I see it. I was like, that's hilarious because he's dead. And it's not a funny movie; it's a scary movie.
3.
The third one?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I've heard it's great though.
Scary Movie 3.
Oh, I hate Scary Movie 3.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, I thought you didn't like this movie. That's why
I don't like it. No. Oh, Scary Movie. No. With these, though, I agree with you. There isn't a
third one.
Scary Movie?
No, for Beetlejuice.
Oh, Beetlejuice.
Dude, I really would want to see another one.
I think...
Just for the title. I'm sorry. Just
they're
for the title.
They're going to have to do it. I think that if they find another way... I don't even know if... I'm surprised, though, that with Michael Keaton's character, that he doesn't show up to other people. Like, I'm surprised that this isn't one of those things where it's an anthology thing in the sense of something like Daniel Craig and Knives Out, where he goes to different families.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like it would be
it would probably get repetitive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even then, even with following this family, too, we got to see, like, a bit of an arc with them.
Yeah.
I would love to see another movie with a different family.
Yeah.
With Beetlejuice. Just because I feel like how everything played out with this family, it did.
I mean, they hint at the end that he's not done.
Yeah.
Because of the thing where he's like, oh, I had the weirdest dream. The movie ends like right there. But no, I thought that all of that stuff was great. I love his visual storytelling here. And I do think that he needs to go back to stuff like this.
Oh, yes.
I remember us talking about the marketing for this movie.
Yeah.
That I was kind of caught off guard by the fact that it felt like he was going back to his roots in terms of what he got famous for in the first place.
Yeah.
And I loved the trailers for this, actually. It was one of those few legacy sequels where I wasn't really apprehensive about it because it looked like it was staying true to...
Well, because it was like the same cast coming back and the same director.
Yeah.
So it looked promising, too.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, some of it does feel like legacy sequel stuff. It's like it's been 30-something years and... There's all that whole idea of there's the younger generation. However, this movie doesn't do that thing where they're like, let's toss it off to...
Here's an iPhone. Do something with it.
I do actually kind of like the stuff with the social media where it's like the way that they get sucked into the phones. I thought was hilarious. Oh, if I were to tell you another... I don't know if I want to call this a negative. I just don't know why they tried to outdo it, but I still like the scene a lot, was the musical number in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that original one is so iconic. And I do love this new one. The choreography's awesome.
Yes.
I love the aesthetic of the church. I think all that stuff works really well. And then whenever he turns to the camera, he's like, I love a dream sequence. And then although it wasn't even a dream, it actually happened.
He's like, what's happening?
Yeah, but when... That visual, it was in the trailer, but of them like swirling in the sky, I think is all really well done. It's that sort of effort and material in this movie that I really appreciate, that I think sets it apart from some of the other legacy stuff. And I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other legacy movies that...
We've had a lot this year.
We did?
Yeah. There's been... Another Ghostbusters, which I know you loved. There was also...
Why do you keep saying that, dude? I'm like, I always forget, and then you're like, you love that movie.
Twisters.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There was also...
I do love Twisters.
Let's also... Even past couple of years, just generally speaking, Top Gun, Indiana Jones. We went over this in one of our episodes because there was something else we reviewed that was something about, like, a legacy sequel.
I can't remember.
And I can't remember what it was either. But the whole thing is, I'm just glad they avoided doing that.
Yeah.
Because... I don't want this movie to have that self-importance, like, all of our lore is important. No, they even say, no,
They make casual references to the first one, too.
Yeah.
Like the red shed, that where the couple dies.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I
Everything is visual here. where it's not like oh my god, a different Legacy sequel would have been like that's the house from 30 years ago, where they do say that in this, but it's mostly because Lydia Deetz made it famous herself because of the entire thing that happened to her back then that the town knows about, but they're all like in denial about it in her TV show. And I just like that this movie, much like the tone of the first one, just doesn't want to take itself that seriously, and I really appreciate that about it, because it really did retain all of the exact same charm and flaw of the first one as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that positive wise.
No, I mean, I feel like I got everything that I wanted to say from it.
Pretty much,
yeah, because I think for me, what I wanted from the second one after watching the first one was for sure more Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
And hopefully it didn't feel as long.
Yeah.
Or like it was just dragging along. And I didn't really get that.
No,
so,
I definitely thought that it didn't stumble too much on itself outside of just whatever.
I kind of want to watch it again just because I want to see Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. Now. I can't see. That's the thing is I can't.
The fact that you said like if he wasn't in it, it wouldn't change anything. I'm like, damn, you're right. But I'm like, I just loved his character so much.
See, that's the thing where I'm telling you, you can have a positive and a negative at the same time. But why do I want him gone? He doesn't add in anything to the story. Doesn't. But who cares?
Yeah.
And the movie,
way he would just have a cup of hot coffee, just crushing it, and just that's it.
Let me tell you about a joke I laughed out loud at before they even pointed it out. Was when he's giving his big speech to his, and then he's like, "You've trained your entire dead lives for this," or whatever he says. And then you can see in the background his assistant already holding his lines for him, and he literally pauses and then he looks and then he keeps going. I thought that was really funny, and it's just stuff like that where I'm just like, "What is this movie? Like, what is it doing?"
And I didn't realize until you pointed out where it's like how scattered it is.
Yeah.
Too.
No, because things will just be like, I'm not interested in that, and then it'll move on, and then. Genuinely, when Beetlejuice first shows up, they're still setting up the funeral stuff, and then they're already like, you know what, let's get the movie going.
And then the stepmom eventually was like, I have these snakes.
The way in which she dies is hilarious. It's one of those things where it's like, it's not even mean-spirited because it's so goofy that I think they just treat death, like you said, as another one of those forms of life that's within this that I really like. And the way that I think it's funny that whenever they're like, why aren't you coming with us? And she was like, what did you do? Instead of like, you know, how a normal person would react to death. What happened? But overall, I also pretty much loved this. It's just, it's one of the things where, you know what happened with me when I rewatched that original recently?
What?
I kept thinking about it, and I liked it more and more when I was thinking about it throughout the week. I think these movies
I like the way Alec Baldwin like dressed in the first one.
He had a really charming presence about him in that movie that I was kind of caught off guard by.
Right? I was just like, is this the same Alec Baldwin that I know?
That was like the same one that's like in 30 Rock that... I don't know. His whole persona in that was completely different. Yeah. But, Erwin, overall, what's your score, and why do you like O.J. Simpson so much? And
they were just saving that one, huh?
I was, yeah.
The juice is loose.
The juice is loose.
Guys, the juice is loose.
Remember, whenever anybody tells you anything about anyone being innocent on the news or anything, we have to listen to the government. They are always right about everything.
The juice is loose.
That's why Erwin thinks if the glove fits, there
must acquit.
Is that what
I think it's a must equip.
Must equip?
Right?
Don't go near him.
So don't go near him. Get away from me, guys. My score would be 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. I gave it the same thing.
Oh,
4
damn,
out
bro.
of 5.
Like,
yeah. I thought it was great.
You need to say the juice is loose.
The juice
no,
is...
just say it the way he does it.
Oh, in the accent?
Like, the juice is loose.
He doesn't say it like that. You sound like the lady from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, my bad.
No, the juice is loose. No, I can't do it. I was doing it earlier.
The juice is loose. I don't know. Damn.
Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
All right.
Always watching.
Thank you so much for listening and
Yes.
watching. What are they going to do?
They're gonna like, comment, and subscribe.
Please do. What did you think of Beetlejuice?
No, it's okay.
We learned that there are a whole lot of people that are big fans of this movie.
Yeah, let's go.
And you know what? So are we, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I would love to see a third one.
I would also love to see a third one.
And what will it be called?
Imagine you're going to like the theater at the front. You're like, "Can I get a ticket for Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice?"
And Michael Keaton just appears.
And then he's like, "Hey."
Yeah, and you go, "The juice is loose."
Yeah. And then I don't know why I can't say
Mr. Juice, what are you doing here?
Beetle.
You can call me Beetle.
Does he ever say that? All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. What's up next?
I don't know.
Speak No Evil? That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
With James McAvoy?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to watch the original, so we're going to be able to...
There's an original?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been told it's amazing.
Oh,
And
okay.
people, it's one of those movies where people are mad that they're making
Oh, okay. I'm curious.
an American remake
Oh,
of
okay.
it. So, thank you so much for listening and watching. Keep an eye out for that, and we'll see you next time.